Well, hello, boys and girls. It's When We Feel Like It O'Clock. I'm Pearl of Wisdom, and you're listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom. Did you notice I said something a little different there? I said, when we feel like it o'clock. You know why? Because I hope you're watching this because you feel like it. Yeah. I hope you're doing everything because you feel like it. I'll have to do some videos on my philosophy of doing things when we feel like it. I will one day. You might have also noticed that the environment has changed. I'm not in Helen's house at the moment. You know why? I was an addict. I've been clean for just over a year, and I had a whole bunch of people living in the house so I could survive, and I've kicked some out. Well, not really. They left, and I just didn't replace them. So I have it's quieter. It's just a better, more spot. So this is the bedroom. I could do it out there, but it's still kind of noisy, people coming and going and stuff like that. So I'm just going to do it in my bedroom now that it's quieter and stuff. Remember I used to do it in the bathroom? That was fun. Actually, it kind of was. I kind of miss it. Anyways, you are listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom, as I just said, usually a betting site, but since we have no sports going on right now, I'm doing just regular hockey videos, and I'm doing a series on each team and what their off-season is going to look like after the playoffs, if they haven't made the playoffs, just period, off-season. I'll do playoff stuff when we know that there's going to be playoffs. Anyways, I did the Arizona Coyotes. You'll see, I'll leave a link for these in the bottom. Arizona Coyotes, I did Toronto Maple Leafs, and now a very good friend of mine, John, why do I want to call you Don? John from Ricketts Picks, it's the best there, I said it. Go check it out, he does picks as well, but he's doing soccer picks right now. He's still keep on going with the gambling. He works on a system, like a mathematical system, and he seems to be able to do any team and do it very well. We also do videos together. You can go check out our baseball videos on BPOW. We did, that's Brian and I. We have a channel called BPOW Picks. We did the Houston Astros and also how the new 3-batter system in pitching is going to work, is going to affect teams in our picks, over-unders and stuff. Go check it out. Love that. Love it. Anyways, he commented, he's from Seattle, and his favorite teams are Vancouver and Winnipeg. So since Vancouver was closer, I decided to go with Vancouver because I asked him, what teams do you want me to do? And he said Vancouver. So I'm doing Vancouver now. Anyways, Helen, I have to now go get Guido to go get the pearls and bring them over to my house now. He's a fine person, that Guido does wonderful things. Anyways, this is the coronavirus removal pearls. So if you have the coronavirus, just bathe in these and you'll be fine. All across the land. Yeah. So coronavirus should be done pretty soon, I would say. So, okay. Let's get into some of the Vancouver Canucks here since I've gone 4 minutes already. Okay. Here's the biggest thing about the Vancouver Canucks. I might as well get it out of the way, get it out right away. They have a player called Louis Eriksson who is making $6 million for the next 3 years. He got 14 points last year. He used to be a stellar two-way winger. Played in Dallas, got picked up in the Sagan trade by Boston, and was kind of like a downhill right from there. He's one of those guys that got the big contract, $6 million a year, and never seemed to, I don't know if he stopped working out or what, I don't know. It all seemed to go downhill from there. And Vancouver ended up picking him up. Can't remember what that was for. I should have looked that up. Anyways, it has been a disaster. He's got 3 more years at $6 million per. He's also got a no trade clause. Isn't that lovely? So if they do find a suitor for him for some reason, and the only reason why anybody would pick him, he's 34 years old. The only reason why anybody would pick him up is because they could get a draft. They'd have to give up a draft pick with it. And a fairly significant one, at least a second-round pick next year for to get rid of Louis Eriksson and get basically nothing back in return. It's just somebody please take him, and I would do it if you could find somebody. There's teams that might be able to use him to get to the cap, I suppose, but I don't know who. Honestly, I really don't. Detroit Red Wings want to get a pick. Ottawa Senators want to get a second-round pick that bad. You probably would have to give up a first next year to have it happen. I don't like doing that, but you almost have to. You almost have to. And the thing is, they gave up their first and second to get JT Miller, which we'll talk about in this year's draft, which is a very deep draft, to get JT Miller, which we'll talk about in a second. So, I don't know. You might have to ride him out. Hope he gets hurt. Seriously. I hate to say that. But then you can put him on the long-term injury reserve. But he's taking $6 million off the cap for the next 2 years at a time when they could really use the money. If they could convince him to retire and give him like the same amount of money as for the next 2 years, call him a consultant, pay him $6 million a year. I don't know. That would probably some illegal stuff going on there. Brutal. If they could find a way to get rid of that, and I doubt they will be able to, this would make it a lot easier on them. Anyways, besides that, they got some great contracts. They got Brock Besser, who is a fantastic right winger, almost a point-to-game right winger, right, who actually had some injury problems this year, but I'm sure that will be all taken care of. He could eventually be a 90-point player, 35, 40-goal scorer, and he signed up till he's 27 at $5.8 million. Excellent in the short term. Once he's 27, that's going to turn, though. They're going to be paying him a lot, but for now, fantastic contract. Bo Horvat, one of the better, maybe getting to the point of maybe even in the top 7 two-way centers in the league, maybe even higher than that. I'd have to really do my homework on that one in between my naps. But I love him. He's fantastic. He, again, is a 50 to 60-point guy, plays against other teams' top lines. He's only 24 years old at $5.5 million until 2022-23. Great contract. Nothing wrong with that. Perfect. Great. Excellent. JT Miller, who I just mentioned, they picked up for first and second. And when they made that trade, even I was like, ooh, it's pretty steep in a very deep draft. It was a very confident pickup. They were really believing in their team because their team is almost in the playoff. They are in a playoff position right now, I believe. Yeah, they are in a playoff position. So the pick is in the mid-teens. If you could get a JT Miller in the mid-teens, you'd be very happy. A first and a second was steep, but JT Miller has been fantastic for them. He's on an over 70-point pace. He's basically been almost a point a game, actually. It could be even 82 point. It's his best season he's ever had. And the great thing about it is it's not on a contract year, which a lot of players do, where you're like, should we pay this guy at that? This was after he got the contract. He's at $5 million a year for the next 4. If he can keep anywhere near that pace for the next 4 years, this is fantastic value for this player. I gotta give credit. Benning, people have given Benning a lot of flack for some of the moves he's made, but some of the moves he's made, like the signings I just talked about, are really, really good. Make up for any mistakes they might have made. Then they went and got Tyler Toffoli from LA. Gave up a really good prospect, but it was for the playoff run. Wanted to give their team a boost. The question is, are they going to be able to sign him because he's an unrestricted free agent next year? Quickly, my answer is no, and I'll explain as we continue why that is. You got Brandon Sutter. This is one of the contracts that he's kind of a third line. He's a weird player. He gives you about average offense, about 40-point pace. You play him on the third line, but he's not what you call a great defensive player, but he's good from the blue line in. He's actually really weird. He's a high-scoring fourth-line player, which is odd. Fourth-line players generally play an aggressive, along the boards, keep it in the offensive zone type of game, and that's what he plays. In the defensive end, he is average to below average. He kind of gets lost out there sometimes. His hockey sense isn't the highest. And all of this is very odd coming from the Sutter family. But he's not a bad player. And there's value out there for him. But the problem is he's making 4.3. That's borderline second line center money. He can play center or wing, and he's only got one more year on his contract. They might be able to find a place for him, maybe. If they could, it would be great, and we'll explain why as we go here. Then they grabbed Tanner Pearson 2 years ago, plays left wing. This is basically their top six. Tanner Pearson plays left wing from Pittsburgh for nothing. I don't know what was going on in LA, but if he didn't get along with Sutter, who was a coach at the time, or what have you, but he just had a terrible 2 years, went to Pittsburgh, didn't do much better. Vancouver identified him as someone who can play on their top six, saw something in him that could turn him around or whatever, and he did. He went back to the 40, 50-point guy he is. And he's wrapped up at 3.7 for the type of player he is. That is really good value for 2 more years. So again, these are a lot of high value contracts. Thank God, because you've got that terrible Louis Eriksson contract. Then you got Antoine Roussel and Jay Beagle at $3 million for the next 3 years. A little steep for fourth line guys, but I kind of got why they did what they did. These are guys that you build around as far as character is concerned. They had a really young team. They look for really professional guys that can play the game what they call the right way. They give everything they got, every shift they have. They know how to play for a team as a team, and how to. There's a lot that goes into hockey from that perspective. There's a lot of players out there that you wonder, why are they on the team? Because skill-wise, they're not, but they're great psychological-wise, and they're great at motivating people and all of those things like that. Both Beagle and Roussel are those guys. Beagle is he's 34. At the end of this contract, it's probably going to be a little steep for a fourth-line guy, but it's not terrible. I get it. I made some sense. Anyways, they'll be around for a bit. The Antoine Roussel for $3 million at 30. Okay. It's okay. And they're tradable. They are tradable. It's tradable contracts in a lot of ways too. There's a lot of things they can do with it. Here's now where we get to the nitty gritty with a few things. I said that Brandon Sutter, if they could find a way to trade him, it'd be great. And the reason why is they have guys like Jake Virtanen. Also, they have Michael Furlan, who's been injured, but should be back next year at $3.5 million. Josh Levo, who has played extremely well for them, can play in that top 9. He needs a contract. And you wouldn't want that Brandon Sutter contract to get in the way of that. It may not anyways, but better to have a little more room, especially through the season. They're going to be capped out, is what I'm trying to say. And there's another reason for that. Also, they got a guy like Zach McEwen, who looked really good at the end of the season. He's a 23-year-old guy who that is a restricted free agent. They can sign him probably for $1 million for the next 2 years or something like that. And he almost might even be able to play in the top 6. So like Jake Virtanen, you got to re-sign. He's 1.25 now. He's probably going to be making he's been a slow progress, but he's showing that he could be a tweener, third, fourth guy, about 40, 45 points, something like that. They're probably going to have to give him about 2.5 next year. So that's another $1 million on the cap. Tyler Mott, they really like this guy. He plays all positions, mostly on the fourth line. He can provide offense. He's not big, but he's very, very gritty and annoying. You can probably get him at the same price for the next couple years. But then you have Adam Gaudette, who's ready. I think he's ready. I've watched him quite a bit, and I think he's ready for that spot that I'm telling you about Brandon Sutter. If they can't find a place for Brandon Sutter, what they'll do is they'll give Adam Gaudette another, because he's a restricted free agent. He can't get an offer. They've got all the leverage. So they'll probably give him $1 million next year, and then up it to $2 million the following year, and so on and so forth. And keep on Brandon Sutter, maybe trade him at the trade deadline or something of that, or just let him walk as a UFA. Now, there's another reason why, the main reason why, the big reason why they're going to have to look for a place to get rid of some of these contracts is, well, Pearson, of course, in 2 more years will be a restricted free agent. Elias Pearson is an unbelievable player. You put that up in the top 6 with Besser, Horvat, Miller, not Tyler Toffoli, but Tanner Pearson, Jake Virtanen. You got a fantastic top 6 there. They don't have to look at that, but they do have to look at paying these guys down the road. So getting rid of these contracts would be very beneficial. Not to mention, you got to fill out the D. And now we're going to get into the D a bit. Jeez. First of all, before I even get into that, let's get into the goaltending situation. You have to sign Markstrom. When you put Ferland, Josh Levo, and Markstrom re-signed and in the lineup, not being hurt, they're right against the cap. They're not going to have much room. So getting rid of Sutter would help to be able to add something if you have to in the offseason, and to be able to fill out their defense. Alexander Edler at $6 million for the next 2 years. He's 33 years old. He's been a really good soldier for them. Still a good defenseman at even 33. I personally have nothing wrong with that $6 million contract for him. He's been one of the most underrated defensemen in the league for a long time. They signed Tyler Myers last year to $6 million till he's 35. It's okay. I'm not a huge Tyler Myers guy. He's very vanilla to me. Vanilla means he's not really great at any one thing. He's an average player, and he's making average money. So he's all the money. It was okay. It was okay. That's all I can say about that. They have Christopher Tanev, who's 30 years old and is going to be a UFA. I don't think they can sign him. By the way, that's the reason why they can't sign Toffoli too, is they have to sign all these contracts. I was going to tell you about that. I was going to say the reason why they're not going to sign Toffoli. They have younger players that can fill those roles. They're probably going to want Jake Virtanen to progress, and they're going to want to play him in that top 6 role to really encourage him to be able to be that person. They put a lot of time and effort into him, and I do believe they believe in him. He's just taking a little longer than they anticipated. So yes, they won't be signing Toffoli. Christopher Tanev might be another one that goes by the wayside. At 30 years old, I'm not sure. I don't know. It's iffy. It depends on how much he wants for how long. The thing is he's a UFA, and there's probably a team out there that's going to give him Tyler Myers type money at $6 million for the next 5 or 6 years, and I just don't like that. Tanev has been, to me, on the decline already at 30. I don't think he's going to be this player. If he's willing to stay at the same rate for 3-4 years, okay, sounds good. We can do that. Maybe $5 million, something like that. But long term, I don't see it. The problem is they don't have too much to replace him with. They probably have to go off on the free agent market to find it. In their prospects, Jet Wu probably won't be ready for a while. Oliu Levy was injured. He was a number 1 pick in 2015, which I didn't like, by the way. I think it was 15 or 16. Maybe it was 16. But I could, I suppose, look it up. But it was somewhere around there. He got injured. It's taken a while to progress. I still think he's going to play, but probably not next year. The one interesting one is they picked up a guy named Brogan Rafferty. He had a great year in the AHL. I think they're really going to give him a good look. He was almost a point-a-game player. He was a college free agent that didn't get drafted and basically a late bloomer. He's 24 years old, and I have a feeling they're going to give him a really good shot next year. Which would mean, like, if he could be in that place of, you got Edler, Tanev, or Myers, Stetcher, play Jordy Ben higher. Jordy Ben's only making $2 million. He's really a 5'6". Actually, no. Edler, Myers, Stetcher, and Hughes is your top 4. Not too bad. Didn't really get into Stetcher. He's a restricted free agent. You're going to have to pay him $4 million a year. You see how this is adding up? I would keep him. I would keep him over Tanev. Let Tanev go. He's just too old. Stetcher's only 25 years old. And then Oscar Fantenberg can play in your 5'6". I actually really like him. And then maybe you can go out and get a Forbert from Calgary or somebody just to fill that 7th role. Fill in your some depth with some 1-year or 2-year contracts at $700,000, and you're pretty good to go for next year. Now, question, what do I think that makes for them next year? I think they're looking at a playoff. They're looking like a playoff team. Besser, Horvat, and Elias Pettersson, Adam Gaudette, they're getting nothing but better. I think this is going to be a very good playoff team. Once they can get rid of Louis Eriksson's contract and stuff, they can add more. This is going to be a contender really quick. Maybe even next year. This has been a long... if you guys watch all this, you love hockey as much as I do, and I thank you for it. Subscribe, bell, all of those things like that. Have a great day. Lots of love to you.